July celebrations in Washington, D.C. President Joe Biden will be on his way here to Wisconsin later today.
Yeah, he'll be here in just a few hours. Air Force One is going to be making a landing at Dane County Regional Airport, and that's where we find our Mackenzie Davis. Mackenzie, tell us what's on the president's schedule for today while he's in Madison.
Yeah, good morning, Tim and Gabriella. We just learned from the White House that the president will be landing here at the Dane County Regional Airport at 12:35 today. He will then be going to a campaign event somewhere in Madison at 1:15. Well, he'll be participating in that. We're not sure who exactly will be joining him, what exactly he will be talking about, but we know that he will be here in Madison for a few hours. Now, this is his 5th visit to the state of Wisconsin this year alone, marking his 2nd visit to Madison this year. Former President Donald Trump has been in Wisconsin 3 times now. But we do know, we just confirmed with the White House that the president will be landing here at 12:35, Air Force One. So we will be here with all those details as well as at that press event too. So we will bring you those right here on air and online. Reporting at the Dane County Regional Airport, Mackenzie Davis, WMTV 15 News.
And the president's scheduled to leave Madison around 4 this afternoon. Mackenzie, thank you. This is